So a few weeks ago, I was a little bit surprised to get a notification from 1Zpresso that they'd actually released another entry-level grinder, and when I asked them about that, they told me it was called a Q2 Air, and after looking at the information, it's like a reskinned, more budget-friendly version of the Q2 Heptagonal. Basically what they've done is they've taken all the working parts, the actual important bits, the burrs and everything from the Q2 Heptagonal, and they've reskinned the body, the catch cup and the sleeve with like a solid hard plastic sleeve and catch cup, and then they've cut the price by $50. So basically what you're getting there is you're getting a slightly reskinned version of the Q2 Heptagonal for half the price. And in this video we're going to look at that and see what you're getting for your money. So let's just take a quick look at what you actually get in the box for the Q2 Air. The box is a typical 1Zpresso box. Got the information on this side here. You've got the QR code to take you directly to their website for information there, and obviously the website. But again, it's slightly different shape and size, this box, as opposed to the regular Q2 Heptagonal. You can see that box there, it's a little bit longer, I suppose, and maybe a tiny bit taller. So when you open this box, you've got, again, your packaging is the usual kind of foam padding. What I noticed right away is that there's something missing out of this grinder, and I'm kind of looking at it, and then I noticed that you don't actually get a cleaning brush with this grinder. What you do get instead is an anti-slip ring. It's a little bit, for me, that's a little bit of a strange inclusion, and it kind of feels, I'm not really sure how to feel about that. I would prefer a brush over a slip ring. I just think that it's going to give you, I would say you need a brush more than you need a slip ring for this grinder. But yeah, that's gone. You don't get a cleaning brush with that. I suppose you could go in and buy a cheap paintbrush and it would kind of do the same thing. The handle on the Q2 Air is obviously the old style handle, the static arm with the round wooden ball on there. You're getting the frosted kind of plastic ring there to stop popcorning. But yeah, that's typical. It's a little bit shorter, this handle, than the Q2 Heptagonal, and I'll kind of show you that in a little while so you can see that the actual grinder itself is this. I've got the grey version here, but there's 4 different colours, and I'll be getting those in stock soon. So this is, like I say, this is the grey version, and you've got the 1Zpresso writing along the side there. You've got the logo there, and in the bottom you don't have a pad like you do with some of the grinders, but you've also got a logo here. The obvious difference with this grinder is the plastic sleeve and the plastic catch cup. So let's just look at the 2 grinders side by side, what we've got for both of these grinders, the Q2 Air and the regular Q2 Heptagonal, so you can see what you're really getting for that extra $50 if you want to go for this grinder, the Q2 Heptagonal. The box for the Air is like that. You've got your anti-slip ring, and you've got your grind handle, which again is a little bit smaller. That's that. And you've got your grinder. As you can see there, I've got the grey one here. Markings, the stamp on the bottom, and that's what that looks like. And then we've got Q2 Heptagonal, which is like this. With this, you're getting the paper card there with the QR code, which obviously you don't get with that one. Again, I'm a little bit surprised at that, but with this one, you've got that QR code on the side there, so you can just use that the same. And again, I'm not going to complain about people when they cut down on paper if it's one of those things that's a little bit more efficient and you don't need a paper card inside if you've got that there. So I suppose you can't really complain too much about that. The Q2 Heptagonal, you obviously get the cloth bag there with the little drawstrings, and that's what you get with that. Obviously you're not getting that with the Q2 Air. The brush. Now, I'm surprised that they haven't given you a brush with that, but again, they've cut it down by $50, so they've got to cut some corners somewhere, I suppose, but I would have liked to have seen a brush with this instead of the anti-slip ring, but again, that's 1Zpresso. That's their decision. The handle is the same. It's a little bit longer here, but it's the same handle. Got the same wooden ball and the same frosted popcorn guard. So that's the same. And then the grinder itself, obviously that looks like this. This is your Q2 Heptagonal. Metal cup, catch cup, thin metal sleeve that screws onto the ring for the burrs, and that's what you get with there. So those are the two grinders side by side. There is actually a difference in the weight of these two grinders as well. The Q2 Air is a little bit lighter than the Q2 Heptagonal. Obviously the materials do make this a little bit lighter. So what you've got with this is about 271 without the handle, and the Q2 Heptagonal is 336, 335, 336 without the handle. So that is kind of significantly lighter. I mean, it's a good, excellent, really grinder for traveling with if you're really concerned about how much weight you've got there. Also, I want to mention like how the grinder feels in your hand. The Q2 Heptagonal is not a heavy grinder like we've just looked. It's obviously heavier than this, but this plastic material also is pretty sturdy. It feels kind of okay in your hands. It doesn't feel too light. It doesn't feel kind of, you know, rubbish. It doesn't feel like it's kind of cheap. It's got a little bit of heft because it's quite solid. The Q2 Heptagonal has got a little bit of a bottom end on it. It's a little bit heavy on the bottom because that's obviously where all your weight is. This sleeve is really thin, so all of your weight is obviously in the burrs and the catch cup, because the catch cup is quite a lot thicker than the actual sleeve. So all your weight is kind of in the bottom there, and it kind of seems to want to pull it down a little bit when it's in your hand. This one, it doesn't. It just sits really nicely in your hand there. This one, I don't want to really let that go because it'll fall. But this one, it actually feels quite nice in your hand, to be honest. It doesn't feel, you know, like it's cheap. It still feels okay. It's good. It's decent. Okay, so the burrs, it's worth noting here that you are getting exactly the same 7 core heptagonal burrs that you get with the Q2 Heptagonal. They're exactly the same burrs, they're the same size. As you can see, if you put those together, they're exactly the same. Excellent burrs. They give a very good flavour profile for pour over. And this is really the thing that elevates this grinder. When 1Zpresso released the Q2 Heptagonal, a lot of people were kind of surprised at how good the flavour profile was for that grinder for the price. For $100, you were getting the equivalent of, say, the flavour profile from a Commandante C40, and people were kind of surprised at that, and it really is. I mean, you know, we could debate that, but it really is pretty much a Commandante C40 for $100 if you want. So now you're getting the same burrs, the same 7-core heptagonal burrs that you're getting for the Q2 Heptagonal. Like I pointed out earlier, you can see the threads on both of these, and the Air has obviously got bigger threads because it doesn't need so fine threads for the metal to thread onto that. And you can see obviously side by side what they look like, and they thread onto there. And likewise with the Q2 Heptagonal, these threads are finer and those kind of correspond to that. You do need to also be kind of careful threading these ones on, because these can cross and they can get damaged if you cross them. So again, it's just one of those things. You just need to be careful when you're putting these on. And you shouldn't have a problem with either of them, to be honest. I've never had any problems over time, and I've been using these grinders for years now. What you need to also note is the outer burrs, the inside here, these burrs that are fitted, you can't really see them from the bottom here. You can kind of see the blades there, but the actual difference is you can see from these burrs here where the blades are kind of rounded off at the top there. And you can notice that. Let me get that into focus. Yeah, you see that there. And these ones seem to be a little bit more pointed. Now, I'm not sure if that's going to change the flavour profile at the bottom there. It's possible it is. I need to kind of test this a little bit more. I've tested it 2 or 3 times, and the flavour is the same as the Q2 Heptagonal for me, but I need to obviously do more tests and try it out with different beans, different roast levels, using different brew types, just to get a really overall, you know, experience, if you like, to kind of see if there is really a big difference there. But so far I haven't really noticed that. But that is worth noting, because they kind of did this with the X Pro when they released that, and then they released the X Ultra. It seemed like they kind of done the same thing with that. The outer burrs were slightly different, and people were mentioning that because they said that the flavour profile had changed. But personally, I've never noticed it. I've used the X Pro and the X Ultra side by side, and I think it just depends. It really depends on what beans you're using. But it's such a subtle difference that I'm not even sure if it is a difference, to be honest. Again, you know, it's one of those things. I really don't think it's worth mentioning it so much, and I haven't noticed it so much. But anyway, like I say, it's worth pointing that out, and you can actually see side by side that these burrs are slightly different. So to conclude, what do I think of the new Q2 Air? I honestly think it's really good. If this was my first manual grinder, and I wanted to pay the absolute minimum $50 for this, I think is excellent. What other grinder are you going to get for $50 these days that's got such a good set of burrs in there? I don't know of any others, to be honest. I mean, for $50 you're going to maybe get something like a Paul X, I suppose, and if I'm not mistaken, they're still ceramic burrs. You can drop down maybe $10 more and pick up like a plastic Hario grinder. But something like this, where the main part of the grinder, the working part, the part that actually matters, are really excellent burrs with a really good fitting in there. And that's really what you're paying for with this grinder. It's a portable, entry-level grinder. I would say over time, those threads would be the thing that you would really need to be careful with. They're pretty thick, and they're actually quite deep and quite solid. but I would say that those would be the things that would compromise this grinder over a period of time from using it. But I do also think, just by kind of testing it a few times, that you need to seat the actual parts on properly when you turn them. And if you do that, I don't think you've got any problems at all. I mean, there's plenty of other grinders that use plastic parts and they last a long time. I've got a Hario grinder, a Mini Slim Plus, that's lasted me years and I've never had a problem, and they've got the same threads as this. But you are going to be threading metal against plastic, and I would think that that would give you problems over time if you don't seat this correctly. So I just want to kind of mention that, because that would be the only thing I would say would actually compromise this. I'm not so bothered about the plastic parts, they don't bother me at all, again, because that price is so low. If I want to replace those parts in the future, I can easily do that for maybe a few dollars. That'll get you a replacement there. If you want to spend, double that amount, you can get obviously the Q2 Heptagonal, which has got the aluminium sleeve, and the catch cup is metal also. It's the same burrs, everything else is the same there. The handle on this is slightly longer. Let me just get this so we can see. And putting those together, you can kind of see the handle is just a little bit longer there. And I do think that might make it more comfortable when you're grinding. It just gives you a little bit more reach and whatnot. But I don't think that's significant, and it's just something I like to mention, just to kind of show people that there is a slight difference there. You can maybe see that a little bit there. It's slightly smaller anyway. But other than that, I think this is an excellent first grinder for people. It does pour over very well. French press, I suppose, it's going to be okay for that. All the way down to, multi-port AeroPress, excellent. And basic espresso is going to have no problem with that at all. But again, with these grinders, with these micron sizes, they're just not a serious espresso grinder. Technically, like all of these grinders, like pretty much every grinder, technically they can grind for serious espresso using a non-pressurized portafilter, but your adjustment, your grind range is going to be very small, maybe one number. If you move from that, you're going to have two coarse or two fine, but they're not marketed as a serious espresso grinder. But for regular espresso, this will get you by, and it'll work reasonably well, I suppose. But other than that, yeah, it's an excellent little grinder for like really pocket money. So if you want to pick up this grinder as your first entry-level grinder with, that's going to work really well, I don't think you can really go wrong with that. Anyway, thanks for watching. If this video is any use to you and you like this content, please give me a thumbs up and consider subscribing, because it really helps me in the future and helps me know if these videos are useful for people. So yeah, thank you and have a nice day.